All right, welcome in. Welcome back to the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery. My name is Dave, cover the Bears for SM, joined by a good friend, as always, co-host Chicago Bears content creator, Ficky. And today we have a Friday night episode in the middle of college or March Madness, albeit it's been a crazy 2 days. Actually, not too crazy. I think most of the games have been, some close ones, but anyways, we're going to go ahead and talk all things Bears in regards to the last about week and a half. I think it's been about a week and a half since our last pod. There's been some stuff that has obviously signed, a couple wide receivers, special teams guys. Of course, Jack Sanborn's gone. We'll talk about that and his deal with Dallas. Of course, we have Caleb Williams. There was actually a really good interview with Mercedes Lewis, who has obviously been a Bear the last 2 years. Old tight end, former, or I guess a veteran tight end that is looking to play one more year. We'll get to that because that was actually some really good stuff. Just about what a train wreck, we all know the dumpster fire it was last year, but he alluded to it. He kind of defended Caleb as well when he went on Colin Coherd's class or show, The Herd, I think is what it's called. Yep. So a lot to get to. Before we jump into it, like always, Ficky, how you doing, man, on this Friday?
Doing good. I think this is, we were talking about a pre-show. This is like the first week that wasn't really crazy with like breaking news. Obviously, we got lucky with free agency. That was fun. And then the week before free agency, we had the trades, right, for Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney. And then last we had like the aftermath of the first wave of free agency. But the second wave, and this just isn't a Bears thing, it's kind of the NFL. The second wave is not as exciting, right? Which is almost a good thing because the Bears are in a position where we talked about it last episode. They don't have like a lot of holes, major needs to fill, right? So it's not as exciting. But there are teams out there that are in that situation because some breaking news just happened before we hopped on the show. And you look at a team like the Giants who's still trying to figure out, their quarterback situation. Well, they just signed Jameis Winston to a 2-year deal, right? So it's almost like the fandom is like, of course, I'm a junkie. Give me my news, give me breaking news. But it's almost good that we can kind of chill to the draft because we don't have to worry about like, well, what are we going to do here? What are we going to do there? Could you imagine, Dave, like we didn't hit like the offseason, if we didn't have the offseason we had, and we're sitting here like, man, what are we going to do about left guard? And then we kind of have to sit out there waiting for like finally some breaking news to happen about that position. But now we can kind of just be like, you know what? Most things are at least in a decent spot, or at least every position has been filled. Now it's about like, can we add more to it, depth, or are we getting some starters to replace the people that are already there in the NFL draft? But no, it's a long-winded answer to how's it going. But I'm doing actually good for not having like a lot of exciting things regarding the Bears. But how about you? Oh, muted. Oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Muted myself right off the bat. It's been a while. Let the record show. Yes, I think this week was almost needed. It has been really go since the offseason started. Obviously have Ben Johnson. That happened really quick. There's been press conferences. And I back to your point in regards to the filling all the needs, because they did that. They did such a good job of getting ahead of free agency. Ryan Poles obviously making those trades. Now we talked about the last pod where you're able to draft best player available at almost every spot here in the draft. Obviously there's a few needs that are higher than others, and we'll get to that, just what they need to address post free agency. But for me, what they've done is just a great job because I think the draft is now wide open. Obviously, you see all these different mocks, and we have ours coming here in the next couple of weeks. But I mean, nobody truly knows what Chicago's going to do at 10. Even if they tell you 100%, 90%, this is where they're going. I truly don't. I don't know. I feel like they could almost even trade up a little bit if they want to go feel very, have some conviction on a guy. I'm not talking like top 5 or anything, but like go to 8, 9, something along those lines. But then obviously you got the 2 second rounders. So outside the Bears, though, I'm doing really well. Severance just concluded. We, spoiler free here on this show. I know we both watch it, but kind of sad. Almost like when the Bears. Yeah, Invincible. I'm actually almost done with season 1. I've been trucking along. I'm watching that one by myself. My wife won't. I made her watch the first episode, and if you've seen that one, there's a reason why. I just couldn't believe it. So, but no, Severance. It reminds me of the Bears season. Like when the Bears season ends, which is typically mid-November, but like when it truly
before
ends,
the season over.
But when it ends though, when there's nothing to talk about, no more games, it's almost, even though they suck a lot, you still miss it, right? You miss going, whether it's going to the games, watching the games, preparing for Sunday. You know, God forbid to be on national television on like a Monday night. You still get up, you're excited to watch the Chicago Bears play football. Same thing with severance, man. I'm just really disappointed now that it's over. And thankfully, we don't have to wait, I guess, 3 years for Bears seasons. But I hope to God we don't have to wait 3 years for severance.
We'd probably be in a better mental space if we waited 3 years for Bears games. That's for sure.
Can you imagine? No, it would be such a disappointment.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Can you imagine waiting 3 years to see what we watched this past year?
That's true. Oh my gosh, that'd be bad. God. Waiting 3 years for a horrible season. I will say this too. I know we're talking about shows here, but Daredevil.
Yep.
Also fantastic. So
watching that with my wife.
Good.
We obviously do our severance because there's a weekly episode every week. You kind of watch that, but yeah, we're on season 1 of Daredevil, the original that got canceled.
Oh, you're doing the original. Okay,
we're not even on the. Well, we wanted to do that one before we moved. I thought
that's smart. No, that makes smart. That's smart.
Yeah,
that's smart. So
you also get more content to watch. So other than that, though, I do miss Bears news. I think you said it perfectly. Like it was such a down week as far as I think we had a signing with
Olamide. We had this week was Devin Duvernay from Baltimore. We had Zacchaeus and Duvernay, I think, since our last pod.
Yeah, and Duvernay is very two-time Pro Bowler. Obviously. Had a down year last year a little bit, but I think he's still like leading in return yards or average or something along those lines. And then Zacchaeus, who's wearing number 14, by the way, Andy Dalton, right?
No, that was Everett last year. It was Dalton. Last year was Everett, but it was Dalton the year before. That's what I'm saying.
Whenever I see 14, I don't know why Dalton pops in my mind like
Red Rocket.
But yeah, I guess we can start there before we get into kind of our what we have like about 4 or 5 topics we want to discuss here. But Zacchaeus, and how do you say his first name?
Olamide.
Zacchaeus. I personally love this one. Outside of some of the options, because they were sniffing around Mecole Hardman. And then one I actually really did like. He signed with the Vikings.
Yes.
Correct. Perfect. Rondale Moore. I really liked Rondale Moore. So for me, I guess I'll ask you this, Fick. Are you content with this signing? Are you happy over the moon, or would you have preferred, those other 2 options that I think both went in the NFC North? One went to Green Bay, and then
funny. Yeah, Mecole went to Green Bay, and then Rondale went to the Vikings. But it's
almost
actually
makes
funny.
Me think. Yeah, I was gonna say it almost makes me feel like the Bears lost out on those guys.
Okay,
I feel like they would have preferred.
I'm so glad you said that because we didn't talk about this yet. I was gonna bring it up. I had a tweet and I said the Bears struck out on Rondale Moore. Okay, now. They were in the race for him. There's other context we may not know. Maybe the Bears didn't want him, you know what I mean, when he came to visit, because he obviously had the knee injury last year.
Money,
maybe. There could be injury concerns, money. We don't know any of that, right? So I'm just going off of what I know. He signed from a different team. I got absolutely flamed on internet. People were just like, no, this is the dumbest thing ever. Oh, you think they struck and that's fine. Look, it's Twitter. So I'm open to all this. I'm in there pleading my case, but I was going to bring it up to you to be like, hey, do you feel the same way? And to add more context, I'm not viewing Rondale Moore as we struck out on getting Trey Hendrickson or something. This is it. You struck out, but the team is still going to they're in a good position. It doesn't mean they can't get a better player in the draft. You know what I mean? People were thinking that I'm viewing this guy as Randy Moss. I'm like, no, you lost in the battle from the context that I know and that we all know against an NFC North team. He would have been a pretty good addition. Let's put it this way. Between Olamide Zacchaeus, Rondale Moore, and Devin Duvernay, I would say Rondale Moore has had the most consistent NFL career. Now, to answer your question about how we feel about Zacchaeus actually had a pretty decent year last year with Jaden Daniels in Washington. Washington fans, like our friend Josh Taylor, was actually like, yo, you guys got a good guy. He was upset, that they couldn't sign a deal with him. I think he ended up with 40 receptions or so, 500 yards. That's a great wide receiver 3, right? So I'm happy about that signing, but I still think they kind of struck out on Rondale Moore. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So I was trying to find your tweet. Let me go back to it. Because it is, I honestly, I had not seen it for some reason. I didn't see that you said, so the Vikings agreed to terms with Rondale Moore. You said Bears struck out on this one, shaking my head. Pretty calm, pretty normal, just quote tweet. Someone goes, struck out, ? Nah. Yeah, I could see, you had to defend yourself.
Bro, it was a lot. But it's okay. Like I like that. But it was just I was kind of surprised by the reaction.
I think we're actually kind of in sync here because that was when I saw that one, and it almost, if he would have signed with like New England, I don't even know if I would have batted an eye or even said struck out. But when he signed in the division, and then you have Mecole Hardman, who also you visited with, signed with another divisional rival, it does make you feel like, oh, they struck out on, because I think they went Rondell Moore, Hardman, and then now this is their third option in Zaccheaus. So for me personally, and I don't have any insight or anything, I do think this was a backup plan, which isn't a bad one. He was very productive in Washington, or not very, he was productive in Washington. I think he's a unique skill guy that could be gadget type guy. But I just don't think it's not going to change anything, right? And for me, I don't think the Bears needed anybody. They don't need to make a splash like they did last year with Keenan Allen, because Rome needs to grow. He needs room. He needs targets. And same thing with, obviously, DJ. There's a target share. Like, these two are going to be the number one, number two. Then you have hopefully obviously Cole Kmet's going to be involved, and who knows if Tyler Warren somehow ends up in Chicago. Right. But for me, you don't need a guy that's going to need it to demand targets, right? It's like he can block. We saw obviously clips were going viral from him back in Philly, running a guy and basically pancaking him in the end zone. So for me, you need a guy like Zaccheaus who is going to be able to obviously make plays. That's what he did in Washington all last year. Whenever they needed to play third down, it felt like he was the guy. On top of that, he's going to benefit from being the third, fourth target, whatever he is or ends up being. And so, but I do think the Bears did strike out a little bit because I don't think they got their top option. And it's okay to say that, but but that is Twitter in a nutshell, man. Because like,
sure. And that's okay though.
I think someone said, what was it? It was like, you could say you don't like, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then someone can be like, what is it? Or they could just basically turn it and be like, oh, so you don't like bagels or something like that. It has nothing to do.
They're going to take something and run with it, and that's okay. Look, and there's a comment here from Phil, said, you commented on the post, but I don't think I dogged you. I would never do that. You can do that. Look, I'm going to have a bad take. Dave and I are going to have a bad take at some point, okay? No one bats 100, or should we say, I struck out on my own tweet. But it's okay. I was just shocked because I'm like, this wasn't like I didn't think it was that bold of a statement. So I was surprised when I come back to the tweet and there's like 60 comments on it. I guess everyone hated Rondell Moore. I know he had a bad year last year because of his knee injury, but so did Devin Duvernay. Devin Duvernay really hasn't had a full season or like stat since 2022, right? I know he's probably gonna be more of the return specialist, and obviously we're not paying much for these guys. Yeah. So it's okay. I'm not like, none of these are, I would say, bad signings, but they're not big impact players. But I thought Rondell Moore would have been a good wide receiver 3. And we could find one in the draft. We still have Tyler Scott, friend of the show. So, like, it's not the end of the world that they didn't get Rondell Moore. But I agree with you, Dave. It felt like they did missed Rondell as being their top option. Yeah. And it's fine. They had a great offseason. It's fine.
Yeah. It is funny that we both kind of thought that. I didn't tweet it. Maybe that's why, because I felt like, if I said something negative, we're at that part of the free agents or that the off season where you say anything that can be portrayed as like negative. It's the off season, so there's nothing to really prove that until they get in the field, and they're not getting on the field right now, right? So everyone's going to praise most moves and
I get it.
Try to see the positivity in every signing, right?
Well, it's the offseason. It's the time. This is the only time every year where you reset and you can literally just be happy about everything. And you know what? That's fair. It too. I'm not even mad about it. Yeah, I'm glad people get that, and I'm glad Bears fans get at least 3 months of that, because once it comes October, we're typically in the shitter by that point. So you know what? Now that I've kind of said this out loud, I totally understand. I'm so sorry for even dogging any move in offseason, because I want us to enjoy every moment we possibly can. Because when the season comes, normally, it may be different this year, normally that is not what happens. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
It is funny though. Fans in here though. It looks like a lot of people do like the Zaccheaus signing, so that's good to see. I thought that was a good one.
I really liked it, and it's not like Moore would have been like 10 times better. I thought that was probably Chicago's number one option. I thought it would have been better, but who knows?
Yeah, we have no idea. Before we move forward though, Dave, we do have, A super chat here from our man Tito,
Hi, Tito.
OG and newly Patreon member. Appreciate you, Tito. Said for $5. Said, I heard the Bears are trading down, but I don't know how far. If it's past 20, we better get a first, and I think it'd be a good spot for Mikael Williams. If it's down to 20, jumping from 20 to 10 is a huge jump. And actually, we know how much that would cost because the Bears made that exact trade. Well, close. We jumped from 20 to 11. Close. Yep. To get Justin Fields, and that cost us a first and a second, I think. If I remember correctly, look if you could look it up, Dave, or if you know off the top of your head. I think it was like a first and a second to move 9 spots.
Yes. No, that is about right. Maybe some change there with like a third or fourth, but I can't remember back.
But it's gonna
there's a lot
spots. Though. 10 spots is a lot. So if we do it, I'm not mad. That's a quarterback tax for sure.
They knew we were coming up.
Well, yeah. Who else? You don't jump 10 spots for just. You don't see that in NFL. If you're jumping that far, like normally that big of jumps, that's for a quarterback, right? So you don't know though. Like I was actually going to talk about this because you had brought it up to kind of start the show, but the draft. I've been, I love looking at mocks, just kind of getting and understand. I'm not like, oh, this is what's going to happen, but I kind of like to get like what the consensus of what people are thinking. Really, we kind of been all over the place. I've seen anything from Tyler Warren. Obviously, Genty is a big one now that I've seen after free agency because we filled like the offensive line position. But we'll talk about Brad Biggs. I won't mention his, but we've seen Mikael Williams or any edge like a James Pierce. I've even seen a trade up for Abdul. Like it's really been like we talked about and Pohl said himself, like the options are endless. So I think it's going to make this draft season really fun because it's not like we're really locked in on one position group or one player. But what's your thoughts on that?
I was going to say another thing why it's kind of dead at this point of the off season, because obviously we're finished pretty much with free agency outside, maybe Aaron Rodgers, a couple deals that need to be done here, and then just fillers. But for me, the Bears don't need a quarterback for the first time, and like there's just been no controversy.
That's true.
Right? Like there's nothing.
Oh my God, you're right.
Not that Caleb's proven everything, but it's like we're not talking about quarterbacks because when you have a need and you're going to be drafting a quarterback, I mean. Every day, something new. You're looking into these guys, the draft class. There's potential trading for other veterans if you don't like the quarterbacks. It's like, what is Chicago going to do? And that's always been the question typically in most off seasons. With Caleb, it's like, no, you can see what they're doing. They already have a plan. And now it's up to they got to finish that out. And of course, Caleb's got to go out there and improve and play, better than he did last year. But it is super exciting. But like PFF, they just mocked the edge rusher out of Boston College, Donovan Izaraku.
Yeah, that's right. Izaraku, yeah. To the Bears?
I think that's correct. I was it. To the Bears. So I'm just like, you're seeing all these names, different names.
I haven't even seen that one, but yeah.
We're going to look at Brad Biggs here because I think he is actually, despite what, some people say or, I feel like he's
tapped in with us.
Tune. Yeah, he is. He may get some stuff, but I think he's ahead of the curve on a lot of different stuff. So we'll take a look at his mock, and then we have ours coming here in the next couple weeks. We just don't want to, like I said, we still have a little over a month away. So
you know what's crazy though? I didn't even think about that, Dave. It's been 3 years that since we haven't had to worry about a quarterback. Yeah. So basically, because last year was Caleb. The year before that, obviously, was the Civil War.
But last year was the trade with Justin.
Last year was the trade with Justin and Caleb. The year before that, it was the trade again because we weren't sure. We had the number one that year. They kept Justin.
Carolina.
So then it'd be the year before that was the only year that we didn't have to worry about it. And then literally the year before that is when we didn't have a quarterback and we traded up for Justin. So really out of the last 4 years, 3 of them have been about a quarterback. So you're right. I think that does add a lot of more like excitement or nerve-wracking
go back to
anxiety.
Mitch and Nagy where they brought in Nick Foles. There was the quarterback battle at training camp where it was Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, right? We had that meter and everything that was going on at that time frame. So it's not flashy or anything like that. It's just improving the offensive defensive lines and not even skill players right now. That's why I think a lot of people are. So I think Jacob Infante did a really funny or interesting bracket, a March Madness-esque, but with Bears draft picks potentially. Mm-hmm. And Ashton Genty ended up winning by a landslide. I think Will Campbell came in second. But, it's just like the Bears, I think, we all love the trenches, but it's like when you get those skill players, similar to like Rome and Keenan last year, excuse me here, it's a little more exciting, right? You saw the reaction when we got up and drafted Rome. The Keenan Allen was exciting. But for me, Gentry is very, 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 very.
I think that's
on everyone's radar.
I think that's the only pick right now out of the draft picks where it gives you that same vibe of like the Caleb excitement or the Rome excitement because it's a skill player, right? But I'm almost
like Tyler Warren too, though.
That would be good, but we already have Cole. Not saying that wouldn't be a good pick, but I'm saying like the excitement wise isn't going to be as much.
I see people, but when I say draft Tyler Warren, it's not to replace Cole. It's
no. You'd run a lot of 12 sets.
It's just another weapon, and I think that would be fun. But I do see the argument between Cole and. However, I think there is some question marks about Cole Kmet because I understand the coaching staff has went away from him at times, but it's like sometimes the consistency. You might need more out of a tight end one,
or more of like a U-line tight end. That's more of like your wide receiver.
Like a Kelsey,
like a Mike Gesicki. Kmet blocking all the time.
He's very well
he's a good blocker. Yeah. So
I'm just curious to see, was it, and it probably was, the coaching staff just underutilizing him because we've seen him have some insane games, right? I think the Falcons game, last year he had
was that 3?
Game. What did he play the Falcons last year?
Or was that the year before? He's had a couple 3-touchdown games, but it's like he always have the spurts. It'd be like 3 touchdowns, no targets. And then next game,
Justin. Yeah. He played the whole first half and he was out the second half, but he had like 110 yards and he ended up getting hurt and didn't to play the second half. But it's like he was unstoppable. And I think that was with Justin now that I think about it. But I'm excited about whatever the Chicago does. It is nice to not have to worry about what they're going to do at quarterback. At least, knock on wood, not yet. So
draft Jackson Dart at 10. If that shit happens, I'm done. Like I know that wouldn't happen, but that'd
be like Minnesota.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't, but
that'd be worse because you got a young quarterback. But yeah, that's not happening. I'd bet my life on that. That's not happening. But it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun. So I'll be excited to see. Do you actually want to go into that? You want to go into Brad? Because I feel like that's probably a good.
Yeah.
See what he had on his mock.
Yeah, let me bring it up here. Do you want to go ahead and do a quick ad?
Yeah, we can do that.
And then we'll do that. Cool.
First off, you guys are here on the BFR Podcast, the #1 show for the fans, by the fans. Really do appreciate it. Dave and I, and Jack, who's not here at the moment because he's working, are fans just like y'all. We love the ups and downs of this team. We get excited. We get sad. So we appreciate that you guys are joining this community because we're trying to build it up of the best fans, the best Chicago Bears fans in the world, not just in the U.S. We got fans all over the place. So we really do appreciate all of y'all. If this is your first time, please like and subscribe. It is free. It helps this show grow. FTA is for the algorithm. Just gets the show out to more people like you. Or if, sometimes you don't catch the show live, and that's totally fine. We want to make sure you can get it. So if you like and subscribe, it'll make sure to hit your inbox and you'll be able to catch the show. So we really do appreciate that. Also, if it is your first time, please leave a hashtag #NewFaceGang in the chat. We'll make sure to give you a shout out before the end of the show. We love showing your face, whether you're Facebook, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube, leave the hashtag. We'll give you a shout out as well. Also to our podcast listeners, I know you don't watch live, but when this is out, go ahead and leave comments as well. Some of you guys have done that. We'll give you a shout out on the following show as well. We really do appreciate y'all. Now, if this is not your first time, which a lot of you in here, it's not, and you're a true OG, make sure to leave a hashtag OG in the comments as well. We'll give you a shout out. We really do appreciate y'all. If you've been here this is your second episode, or you've been at all 100 in, always forget the number, 86, 7, whatever, wherever we're at.
139.
Is that it? Okay, I'm off by a lot. Yeah, okay. Wherever we're at, we really do appreciate it. If you've seen enough of these faces, we really do appreciate that. Also, if you want to support us, we do have an ongoing community growing on Patreon, the BFR Den on Patreon, where we have a bunch of monthly exclusives like monthly giveaways, private Zoom calls, mailbag episodes, and much, much more. If you're a Patreon right now, we actually just dropped merch early, our new merch line early, to our Patreon members only. And this merch is exclusive just for the Patreon members. And they get special Grizzly, like a Grizzly logo and like on the gear. So like you can only get it from being a Patreon member. So if you want access to that, you can join the Patreon right now and you can get access to that. We have 2 tiers, $10 Hall of Fame tier, which includes the private Zoom call with Dave, Jack, and I every month, which is awesome. We love doing that with y'all. We just shoot the shit, talk for 30 minutes or so. So get to know each other. That stuff's always fun. And then also the tier underneath that is the Rookie Grizzly tier. That's $3. That's super cheap. And that's That gets you private Zoom, not private Zoom calls. That gets you the private Discord. That gives you the monthly giveaways. So you can win free merch anyways. You get our mailbag episodes and much, much more. Also, if you join the Patreon, you get a shout out every show. So we love y'all. So shout out to Michael, who just got the new sweatshirt, the new Patreon sweatshirt, and was flexing that on Twitter. That thing looked fire. Appreciate that, Michael. We got Gage on here as well. Shout out Philip and then Michael as well. Both mics in there. Much love. And then to our rookie Patreons, I got to give a shout out to Alex, Brian, Chris, Jason, and Essen. We appreciate all your guys' support as well. Also, if you want to keep supporting us as well, you can go to the merch store, the BFRstore.com. We do have our regular standard logos, the BFR hats, hoodies, T-shirts, sweatshirts, beanies. You can get all of that there. And our new merch line that the Discord has the Patreon has private access to right now. You can get that merch. We're going to do a special drop of that a week before the draft. So it will come out. It won't have the special Patreon logo and stuff on it, the Grizzly logo, but you will get the new merch drop coming out. So we're really excited about that. Again, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really do appreciate it. Drop your hashtags below. We love to give you all shout out. Shout out to our Patreon members. Much love to all y'all. Again, thank you for joining the BFR show, the number one show for the fans, by the fans. All right, back to you, Dave.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely, though. Just to echo with that real quick. The sport's been awesome off season, and you guys have just been listening, watching, so we appreciate it. So back to, like I said, I think it is, we'll go into Brad Biggs of the Sun Times, and it was his first mock draft. That's why I feel like it's always important to get these ones, kind of gauge what he's hearing. And I feel like he is tapped in, like you mentioned earlier, Fick. So let's see here. He started off by saying owners of the number one NFL draft pick the last 2 years, the Chicago Bears, will have to wait to number 10 for their first selection this year. This is where, let's get here. So in the last decade, the 10th pick has yielded wide receivers Garrett Wilson, Devontae Smith, quarterbacks J.J. McCarthy, Josh Rosen. That's tough. Patrick Mahomes.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
Not bad.
But this is not a great class for quarterbacks.
What quarterback went before Mahomes? I forgot.
It's not important. It's irrelevant. And then last year, in 2023, GM Ryan Poles ended up trading away the first pick in 2023. They moved to 9, but then traded that 9th back to basically draft Darnell Wright instead of Jalen Carter, right, with Philly. Yep. So that's just some of the history with that, 10th overall.
So, look, there's talent there. Like, other than Josh Rosen, all of those picks are, you would say those are average to above average players, and some elite.
I would say the hit rate when it's not a quarterback is just so much higher, right?
Oh, for
so
sure.
much higher. Was Roquan Smith 10th?
He was 8, I think. But still, that tells you the talent, right? I think he was 8. There's we're in a good position. I know we wish we were 5 or 6, but like top 10, you can find some real.
I'll take that win against Green Bay to end the season any 100%. Day of the week.
100%.
So going into Biggs, his draft. So number 1, he has Tennessee Titans taking Cam Ward. I think that's pretty self-explanatory and expected. 2, Cleveland Browns, Abdul Carter with Penn State. New York Giants taking Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders.
There.
No, sorry, no, you're good. Actually, time out though, Dave. Could you imagine the Browns, Myles Garrett, and Abdul Carter? That's
crazy.
That would be good luck, bro. Like, sorry,
him going 2 overalls is.
Yeah, he's that.
It
good.
could happen. It could.
For sure. Sorry, not to
New
interrupt
England
you,
Patriots take Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback. Jacksonville Jaguars take Mason Graham, DT, defensive tackle out of Michigan. He has Las Vegas Raiders taking Jalen Walker, the edge rusher out of Georgia. And then New York Jets take Tyler Warren. And it is funny. He's the tight end out of Penn State. But yeah, he is not Tyler Warren. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Tyler Warren's not that dark. So he's Tyler Warren is definitely a white man. So
just funny that you had mentioned it. I think this was off air when you told me.
Yeah, it was off air. They accidentally put Tyler Booker for Tyler Warren. So when I was scrolling through looking at the mock, I was like, wait a minute, that's not the right guy.
I know the draft a little bit better than this. There's no way. Carolina Panthers take Mikael Williams, edge rusher out of Georgia. And then New Orleans Saints take Armand Membu.
Yeah,
Membu, right tackle out of Missouri. And then Chicago, this is interesting. Will Campbell, left tackle, LSU. This is what Big said. If arm length weren't an issue, Campbell measured 32 5/8 inches at the scouting combine. He would be a top 5 pick. It's a fair concern, but plenty of very good left tackles have excelled without ideal arm strength. 34 inches or longer. The Bears can plug in Campbell at left tackle, and if it proves to be a problem down the road, he always could be an interior anchor. It's a very, very good little summit there. So,
can I get my thoughts on this?
Yes, 10th overall. First of all, he's going to have to fall because I don't even know if he's going to get to 10.
He may not.
If he does,
I saw
they make this decision, how are you feeling on draft night?
It depends. Well, no, he's a good player. He's a good player. Like, I'm not going to be upset about that. He may not be your starter because I don't think he'd be starting left tackle. I just don't. And why I say that is I'm not a big draft expert. But this guy, I can't remember where, was showing its chart of like the starting tackles right now in the NFL. And like Will Campbell, like arm length would be like at the very, very, very lowest end. Okay. And so, if you're just looking at trends and data, he could be an anomaly. He could be a baller who has short arms. There's some tackles that are ballers that have shorter arms. I'm thinking of not Sewell. Is it Slater? Slater is a great left tackle. He has shorter arms, and he's played well. So it's not that he can't be, but if he moves to guard, I think that's great because think about it. He doesn't have to start, right? Just because you draft someone at 10 doesn't mean they have to be a starter. He can still be a really good player, but now you have insurance for the guard. We've talked about for years how the weakness of this team, more than anything, has been the interior offensive line from center to both guards year after year. The only shining rock we've had in 3 years was Tevin Jenkins, but he only was on the field 35% of the time, right? Like, it has always been an issue. We've had revolving chairs when it comes to center, when it comes to the guard position, and then normally people are in there are backup type of talent, right? So if we were to draft Will Campbell, and even though he doesn't play, I would think that is a good move because, first of all, we talked about this as well. You need depth on the offensive line. So it does not mean he would not start at some point. I'm not going to be upset about it. People probably will be because they'll be like, oh, why isn't he playing right away? That's what you want to see with these players. But when you're looking at the long haul and if you're looking at like the big picture, it's actually a smart move. So if they do pick Will Campbell, I would still be excited about it. I think he's a good player and he can really bring talent to this team. He's not the top of my list though. So obviously, depending on how the board lies, right? There's still 9 teams in front of you and how they pick. That's going to determine like how I feel about it. And for this example, this use case would actually make sense because the guy, if I want them to go offensive line, the guy who I'd want them to take is who went just right before them. And that's Membu. That dude is a fucking beast. All right. Well, the tape shows that people have been talking highly of him, right? He's been basically, I think, like tackle 1, 2, or 3, depending how you look at it. It's basically Will Campbell, Membu, and then you have Josh Simmons, who got injured at Ohio State. So that's why his stocks kind of dropped a little bit. But what happened is Membu went crazy in the combine, right? And I think we talked about it. He was like one of like 4 tackles to ever move at that speed with that weight and like do some of the combine metrics. And the other 2 were like Trent Williams and then another like future Hall of Fame tackle, right? So it's like he's an elite company. So I would love to see that because his tape backs it up and his athleticism also does that. But I think Will Campbell also fell into that same category. The only problem was his arm length. So again, long-winded thing to say, if they go offensive line, I'm not mad about it, even if they don't start. Like, even if you get Membu and Braxton Jones starts, like at the end of the day, Braxton Jones has been in the NFL for 3 years now, right? There is something to experience. He is an average, maybe slightly average left tackle, so he can work. You can let these rookies kind of develop behind. So I know it's not super exciting like we talked about, but if you really want to talk about like the future of this team, it's about protecting number 18 or maybe future number 13. And to do that, it starts with your interior line. And so I would not be upset with that move. How do you feel about
it? You said like, might not be exciting. I would be stoked. I really would. First of all, he's a big dude too. He's 21 years old, super young, 6'6". He's a giant. I think when you look at an offensive lineman, you almost picture a Will Campbell type. So for me, I'll be excited. He is PFF's 6th best overall prospect in this draft. And depending where you look, he's always going to be high, at least in the flirting with top 5. So for me, and I do actually think he's a starting cat. I think right away he could start maybe all 5 positions. Like I'm not even maybe not center, but like I do think I think he could do it all. I really do. I'm not too concerned about his, his what do he measure? His length. I just don't. I'm not concerned about those. I don't think those are true limitations for me with his game. But for me, if we were to draft Will Campbell, I would expect him to start over Braxton Jones. And personally, I think
he probably would, but I'm saying
he should. I would feel better if he battles out and beats him, right? That you always feel a little bit better, starting him that way, not just giving him the job. And I don't think, and the way Ben Johnson talked during his pressers and even Ryan Poles, no one's going to be handed anything. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. You just hope if you go number 10 overall that you start this guy. But say he is your left tackle and he is able to overcome some of the limitations. He has that flexibility to go inside, of course, if they have to shuffle, because that's just part of the offensive line. This day and age, it's going to happen. But for me, if he starts out and he can play left tackle at a high level, and then you have Darnell Wright, who's 22. So you have 21, 22 on the left and right side. And then the inside has already been, fortified for the most part. You have, Jonah Jackson's 26. I would say Joe Thuney has maybe 2 to 3 years left as far as like being a really, really great guard. And then same thing with Dahlman, who's 26. So you're relatively young outside of Joe Thuney, but you're really young on the outside, which is, that's where the money's made for the most part. So I would be stoked, especially if he can solidify himself as a, I would say star, left tackle, because I don't want him to be just average. Otherwise, that's what Braxton Jones is, So, but at the same time, I think Brad Biggs talked about it. Say it doesn't work out, he is going to be a fit for a very long time inside. He's probably an all-pro level guard, if we're being honest here. And I know he hasn't played a snap, but that's his ceiling, in my opinion.
And that move happens all the time. You see especially, so there was, I can't remember who had this on Twitter, but someone was talking about, because someone made a comment here about, well, if we want a guard, why wouldn't we get Tyler Booker? Well, if you actually look at like NFL draft history, there's only been like in the past 5 drafts, like a couple of first round guards taken. Normally what happens is they take tackles who have maybe more measurements that fit guard, and they put them at guard and they excel. There's not a lot of instances where in the first round you draft a guard. So you might be saying, hey, drafting Will Campbell and then not having him start is, a crime. I would say drafting Tyler Booker, who's probably the number 1 guard in the draft, at number 10, that's a bigger crime, because based off positional value, that's not how the board would fall. So I agree. There's arguments on both sides about arm length. Joe Thomas, Hall of Fame left tackle, says it's not a real thing. There's some data out there to say it is. Who knows at this point, right? I don't think anyone's super sold on it. That's why you have these conversations literally every year. It is something that you have to look out for, though. But I'm going to trust, hopefully, the evaluation, because Poles did get the right tackle right. He did with Darnell Wright, even though it may not be Jalen Carter. He got that one right? It's a solid starter. That's what you're asking for in the first round. I would trust that if he drafts Will Campbell, that he's going to put him in the right place. And if that moves Braxton Jones out, I'm okay with that. That's a great depth piece. If Braxton Jones is your backup, that's one of the best backup tackles in the NFL, right? Because if Will Campbell beats out Braxton Jones, again, Braxton Jones, at least grading-wise and at least tape-wise, he's top half of left tackles in the NFL. He might be like 16, 15, right? Like right around the middle mark, but he's not bad. So if Will Campbell beats him out, then like he obviously is a really, really good left tackle. And then now you have a really high starting caliber backup.
And think about this too with Braxton Jones, because it is a mixed bag with him. I think he's good. But you're going to have to make a decision on him next year, whether to pay him, and it's going to cost. No matter what, he's going to cost a decent amount. He's going to get a lot of money because he is above average, in my opinion, at his position. And it's a tough one to fill. It's tough. So either Chicago can replace him with a rookie, but keep him right now for depth, or he can start, whatever it is. and have the backup, mature, whether they pick like a second rounder or something, or go whatever, however they replace or draft a left tackle. I just think you're either gonna have to pay Braxton Jones, but if Will Campbell comes in, he plays well, he's your starter. Braxton Jones can obviously add more depth there. You're feeling better because then you have Will Campbell on a rookie deal, right? So there's so many pros and cons to both. I think there was a mention here about edge rusher, and I agree. I think.
Oh yeah, we could take one.
That's why Poles has done a really good job, and Ben Johnson, because they have filled so many needs. Like, they might not be perfect long-term solutions. Like Joe Thuney, let's be honest, he's not a long-term solution, but for probably throughout Caleb's contract, his rookie deal.
These are all to his contract.
Yeah, he's so good. He's going to be so good for that time period, if not all pro again, at least for one of those years. You expect him to keep that level for at least another 2 to 3 years. But they've got a solution for all of these scenario, or for all the kind of needs they had heading into free agency or into the offseason. So it allows you to, and not just at 10, but those 2 second rounders, it just opens the board for everything. And Pohl said that, 2 weeks ago, that they had that ability to take anything now. So
I think that's spot on. And sorry to interrupt you there, but what I was saying is that, edge is definitely important. So is tackle, and all of these contracts, even with the free agency ones, right? They're aligned up to when Caleb has to get paid in about 3 years, right? Or if they pay him early, 2 years, depending on how he performs. Those guys are off the books. Okay. So that's good. They did that on purpose. That's obviously intentional. You make a good point about Braxton Jones having to get paid next year, right? So is this a cheaper option to replace from a financial standpoint? Makes sense, right? The only thing I'd be concerned about is that we've talked about for so long, you got to protect Caleb. That's like, you got sacked 68 times last year. Does putting a rookie tackle, and I don't care if it's the best tackle to ever touch football, it is a rookie. Putting a rookie tackle, left tackle particularly, which the game's changed now, like these defensive ends are all over the place, but that's the blind side of your quarterback. Is that the move to make with your rookie quarterback? Now, I could see it working out. There are good ones out there, like Penny Sewell as a rookie was just fine. I think he was at right tackle his rookie year. Then they moved him to left. Tristan Wirfs. Yeah, he was at right tackle at first, and then they moved him to left. Yeah, they drafted right tackle, and then he moved him to left. Or
outside of Khalil Mack.
Yeah, for sure.
His rookie year.
That was crazy. Flipping Tristan is wild. But yeah, so like it can't happen. If you get like that type of elite player and you can get him at 10, then you're good. But again, there's the risk with that. So is it safer to stick with something that's like is going to do a
because Ficky, what has every move this offseason been? Like for me, every move they've really made, it's been about winning now. Joe Thuney is winning now. Jonah Jackson, Dahlman, winning now. They're not thinking 100%. A year or two away. It's like how they should, and how elite, good franchise think they want to take advantage of where Caleb's at in that rookie contract. So it is a really good question, like because it could be, say you go Will Campbell and it's a disaster, right? So he beats out Jones. At the same time, Braxton Jones, they could trade him too. Like, I don't know how they would feel about that, but they could get something for him if they wanted it. All I'm saying is, say you Will Campbell, he starts, and it's a terrible first 2-3 games, and it could cost you, right? Maybe it's a strip sack that ends the game. It's a close game. It could cost you a couple games, cost you one game. We don't know. But then you got to everything, the line that they had in camp would be changed, right? Because maybe Will Campbell doesn't even start because I think the interior is fine. So I don't know where you could kick him in if he struggles there, right? Or whoever does replace Braxton Jones.
Yeah, he wouldn't play till.
And then you throw Braxton Jones in there if you don't trade him, which I don't think they should. They should just keep him, at least in my opinion, depending on what you could get for him. But either way, I think you're not going to be excited about what you're going to get back as far as what he could produce in 2025. So for me, I think that's a very valid question because the Bears want to win now. They want to. I think they obviously want to make the playoffs. They want to win the division, but it's going to be hell. It's going to be competitive. Just maybe not as much last year because I think that was insane how great those three teams were.
No way they're going to see that again.
I mean, how great they were, but how much they were winning. They were winning so much outside, especially with Detroit and Minnesota. it's crazy. But now you got JJ McCarthy.
It was record breaking. That was the first time in NFL history you had 3 teams that had 12 plus wins or more. And then also the first time in NFL history that all 3 of those teams didn't win a playoff game either.
And Chicago should have been so much. The division should have been even better as far as win percentage, because Chicago, how many games did we lose because of coaching and just stupid decisions that I would say most teams win?
5.
So I think it's 3, 4, maybe 5.
Yeah,
max.
we wouldn't win all of them, but like we'd probably get at least 2 or 3 of those back.
Yeah.
So.
It's I think it is a win now mentality, but I think Will Camp, depending who you pick, I think anywhere in that top 10, you expect them to start. You expect them to be a high caliber player right off the bat. Like, it's just an impact play. It's not like you're expecting even second rounders. Look at Jaquan Brisker. I know this is Kyler Gordon. I mean, these guys are starting right away. Roquan Smith, different positions. I get that, right? Left tackle. It's a tough one.
For sure, it's a tough one.
But I just think you expect whoever it is to start, no matter where it's at. Same thing with a quarterback. Most of the time, let's be honest, this last couple of years, these guys are starting. You know, there's been Justin Fields sat for a little bit. What was the guy in Atlanta last year? What the heck?
Mooney?
Why am I blanking? No,
Mooney?
The quarterback.
Oh, Kirk Cousins?
No, the young one they drafted.
Michael
the left-hander.
Penix
Jr.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Yes, they
he sat for a little bit.
I just expect these guys to start no matter whoever they draft. So
I mean, look, at 10, you're expected to start, but that's what I'm saying. If you pick Will Campbell, right? If you pick Will Campbell, he has to be starting left tackle. But if he can't, like you're not going interior, so you would sit. You're not going to beat out Jonah.
And I don't like that either.
So yeah. So that's the funness of this, is like trying to figure out who you're going to fill, because there isn't that like, oh, you have to have this position. Because literally every position has an upgrade from the starting level. Every position.
Yeah.
Right. Either they kept the guys that we thought were good. Like every hole has been filled, should we say. It doesn't mean it can't be improved even more, but it's not like we have a glaring need like we did last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Almost every year we have like 1 or 2. So I do want to bring this up here real quick though, because weird beads. Whoa, look at that photo. That's an old school one. That game was annoying. We bumped into
that game will always piss me off. That Pittsburgh Monday Night Football, Justin Fields got robbed.
Played well that game. He said Mimbu is overhyped. You don't watch tape, bro. Doesn't finish. His highlights are short on passes. Look, we'll admit we're not necessarily tape watchers, but we follow.
Hey, whoa.
Well, I don't watch
you.
I'm not deep into I'm not deep into the tape like that. There's too many, especially for these college players, like NFL players.
It's all subjective anyway.
Yeah. So look, they don't even get it right all the time, or they'd be, these guys, GMs would be knocking out of the park. So, but I will say we do get a lot of information from well-respected people that is their main job. So, but do appreciate the comment.
But even people that it's their main job, they
get it wrong all the time.
This process is, it's a lot of,
there's a
website
that does like an aggregation of all the mock drafts like that are ever put out. Like each year they do it, and then they like award the best mock, like whoever was the most accurate. And every year the winner is like 34%. Right.
Yeah. But if you put out 60, 70 mock drafts before the draft, you're going to hit some.
No, but I'm saying even still the best ones only like 35%. That's what I'm saying. It is so hard to figure out who these teams are going to get. And then even from who they get, all these guys are thinking they got the right guy, and they don't.
Is way off topic. Courtney Cronin, what is she, 22-0 in March Madness?
Something like that. Wild. IU girl, alumni. Shout out Hoosiers.
Courtney, everything she does just kills.
Kills it.
She's the best, man. Ashton Jensen.
And one last thing here. Sorry, I saw this. Tito here said, you got y'all get my voicemail. We did, Tito. We'll play it at the end here. Also, if you want to leave a voicemail, you always can on our show at speakpipe.com/BFR Podcast. We do it for our pregame shows, postgame shows, all of our shows. If you ever want to leave a message about anything, we will share it on the show. So, okay, back to you, Dave.
Yeah, real quick, we're going to move on to what Mercedes Lewis had to say about Caleb Williams defending him on Colin Cowherd's show, The Herd. But real quick, to end on Brad Biggs' draft, he had Ashton Jensen going 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. How about that?
Honestly, that's where he was. I remember earlier on in this like draft season, most people were projecting him to Dallas because Dallas does need a running back. But that means
don't ever see him slipping.
Yes, I'm saying you're saying he's going to pass, and it could happen. We don't know. He could. That means he's going to pass the Raiders. Easily could see him going to the Raiders. Easily. Yeah. Pete Carroll gets his Marshawn Lynch. Because now they're not in rebuild mode now that they've traded for Geno and all that. So They could easily take Genty at 6. Then you have us at 10. We could easily take them. And if it's not 6 and 10, I'm 100% sure Dallas will draft him just because of the money it will bring in, because Jerry Jones is their GM. So
yeah, he'd be like the Zeke hype,
100%,
you know, when they drafted
for
Zeke,
sure.
Zeke
Jersey
2 years
sales
ago.
out the wazoo. So like 100%. Would it make them better? Like, are they going to win games? Probably still
I think
not.
they would.
Cowboys. This is not going to do anything. Maybe, I mean, they'll be better. Genty's a beast. But
it'll be good for Dak. It'll be good for Dak.
For sure. For sure.
So
I'll take it.
Moving on to our last topic before our voicemails here. It's Mercedes Lewis. He appeared on The Herd with Colin Cowherd on Thursday, so yesterday. And Lewis, obviously, he spoke very highly of Williams. He basically praised his ability to make the hard stuff look easy, because Colin did ask him, and he kind of Cowherd, you know, asked about his inconsistency last year, and he thought Cowherd thought it was a real concern about Williams and his development. And on top of that, it was cool to see Lewis right away defended him. And so he went ahead and said, in his defense, obviously with our offense, which is so funny because he talking about, you know, you just see how dysfunctional it was. But he said, in his defense, obviously with our offense, the firing of coaches midway through the season, it was a lot going on. He was trying to do the best he could. And so for me, I did love seeing Mercedes Lewis, who's not with the Bears, but he's played the last 2 years, but defending Caleb on top of, you know, obviously I think Colin actually does like Caleb Williams, but you could see he was kind of setting him up. You're trying to get maybe some information about maybe how chaotic and a train wreck it really was last year. Yeah,
we know
but
this.
I love Mercedes being able to defend Caleb there. And he talked a little bit more about his game and the fact that he actually did grow. Like, he grew a lot from game one, actually even the training camp, all the way to where we are now. But he did say it was a lot to overcome, even for him, when it came to Shane Waldron, right? Obviously, when they made that switch, Flus is fired, and then they have Thomas Brown come in, it still wasn't easy because everything was changing. There was so much changing, almost week to week. And just, I liked hearing Mercedes obviously back him up. But another interesting part here, this is where I wanted to get to, kind of ask you, is he was asked about returning, if he's going to play for his 20th NFL season. So Lewis, obviously, before he did that, he did praise the arrival of Ben Johnson. He thinks it's going to be masterful for Caleb Williams and just everybody, and he wants to be a part of that. He said that as for his own future, Lewis made it clear he wants to play, you know, his 20th NFL season. When asked about his ideal landing spot, he said Chicago. He did not hesitate. He said it would be his top choice. They asked him, Colin asked him anywhere else, and he said, not really. He did not give an answer. But he said Chicago. He likes the tight end coach. They actually kept him. What's his name? One. The same one last 2 years. So that's one of the rare people they kept on this staff.
Yeah, him and Hightower, I think.
And Hightower. Yeah. But he said he wants to finish his career in Chicago with Caleb Williams, with this offense, kind of see it through one more year and be that veteran presence for the team. I wanted to kind of, I guess I'll start here real quick because it's going to be quick. Mercedes Lewis, if you go back on record, you search, I almost was like, what is this man? Like, he would come in for a play and almost be like a false start.
False start, drop pass.
He would get his snap. I love the veteran presence for him. I just don't see it. I don't see him coming back to Chicago. I don't think it would be a bad thing. I would not hate it. But it would take a roster spot. It would.
It will take a roster spot. Financially, it's a vet minimum. So, like, the money's not an issue. But, yes, it's roster spot wise.
Yeah.
So, the question is, how much does Ryan Poles weigh having a veteranship in the locker room? Because that's what it is. At the end of the day,
Ryan Poles are, I think, good friends, too.
Well, that would make sense, right?
Same age.
So, I mean, they are. They basically are.
Poles might be younger.
Yeah, because look, I mean, he's been through the league for 20 years, and if you watch I know you did, but to our viewers here, if you watch the podcast,
yeah,
he talks about like how he's how he's been able to maintain the 20 years and do it because he always sticks to routine. Meticulous. He shows up. He loves meticulous, all about the grit. Players talk about all the time in all sports or any profession or job. You come in and you see someone who sets the good example. You're like, oh, how was he so good? And you look and you watch what they do or what they do, and you learn from them, right? Especially if you're a new person on the block, right? That's how you learn. You see someone who's been doing something at a high level and you replicate the stuff that's been working. So if they view that's important, because when you look at this team, it is pretty young, which is good, right? Financially, that's good. It helps. It aligns with your quarterback. They don't really have like a super veteran in there. The only veteran they have is probably Edwards and Kevin Byard. So Kevin's back, so that's good. I think that's great on the defensive side. But who on the offensive side now? I'm not talking about after the trades and all that, but before Joe Thuney, it was Mercedes Lewis. There was no one else that was like a true veteran. Like DJ Moore's been in the league for a good amount of time, but he's still only 27. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like it wasn't.
But like Dahlman though, he's 26. I expect him to be a leader. Joe Thuney, like you said,
for sure. You got some people now, so
DJ needs to step up. Cole, let's be honest, he's already on his second contract. I think he's already been shown. He's already been. I think he's already kind of assumed that position where he is a leader in that locker room.
JJ too, technically, then because they're the same draft class.
Jalen Johnson? Oh yeah, he's a leader on that team. Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm saying though, you got again, it's not that they don't have them now. They have more now, I would say, right? You have Kevin who's been here for at least a year now, so you're accustomed to that. It's not just the new guy on the block, but this is someone who's a veteran and has been on the team for 2 or 3 years. You talk about on the podcast, he kind of understands what they're looking for these players when they come in and things like that. If they don't bring him back, I'm not like storming Hallis Hall, okay? But if they bring him back, I totally understand why they're bringing him back, and it's to have that Udonis Haslam role, right? Let him be that veteran piece for that.
Devil's advocate here. Are they talented enough to do that? Like
maybe not.
I feel like they need. Not. I think I just for me personally, I think they need to add another. I don't know what I'd be okay going to be, but yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
We'll see. We'll see. I guess we got to see how everything.
Again, this isn't this either. Whether it's Mercedes Lewis or that roster spot. That roster spot is probably gonna be a special teamer. Doesn't mean they won't contribute, but it's like either way. I don't think the impact of whether Mercedes Lewis is on the team or not is gonna determine if this team makes it to the playoffs or not. You know what I mean? So
no, but I do like Mercedes Lewis. I would not be upset about it. I do appreciate him defending his quarterback or Caleb Williams, you know.
We do appreciate that.
And in showing, again, I think we've heard so many stories now, but just I guess this is another confirmation of just how shitty it was in Chicago last year. So
how could you there's no way you couldn't, like, we know that from the outside. So there's like they had to know that from the inside. I mean, they went through it. Yeah. I bet you the story, how we feel about the team from the outside, I bet you it was 10 times worse.
I look forward to those. I look forward to hear a couple of years from now. I mean, we already have stuff leaking right now, or a lot of the stories. I think in a couple of years we'll really get some.
Oh, for sure.
Some funny. It could be a random podcast that someone does. It could be a Jack Sanborn, right? You know, like just talking about how crazy it was.
Well, not yet. Not yet, because he's still with Flus in Dallas.
That's true. You're right. That's what I'm saying. In a couple of years, who knows?
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, he's with them, so he might want to. Yeah. He might want to keep his mouth shut. So, speaking of that, how do you feel about the real quick, and then we'll go to the voicemails and shout outs here. How do you feel about letting Sanborn go? I know
for $1.25 million.
Yeah, at first people are like, "Oh wow," kind of surprised because look, Sanborn.
No, I think
in this defense was a dog, right? I mean, he didn't his play snaps weren't super high because we weren't in 3 linebacker defenses all the time. And I talked about this. Dennis Allen does not run a lot of 3 linebackers. He doesn't run it that often. He runs a lot of nickel or basically having a third safety. So it makes sense why they let him go, right? Or Kyle Gorin, someone in that nickel dime type of stuff. He's running that hybrid safety. He's not putting in another linebacker. So are you upset that they let him go? And then seeing how cheap it was, are you like, oh,
I love Jack Sanborn. I do. But at the same time, so for me, speed is everything. And I understand he's got great instincts. Yeah, great instincts, awareness. But at the same time, last year we saw times where he didn't have top speed, right? And so for me, I also think he wants to start. I think he sees, and I think he can.
He should.
So I think he should. I don't think it was a money issue. I think it was about like he wants to start. He wants.
It's a scheme thing too.
Flus, he knows Flus. Dallas kind of needs linebackers, so it makes sense. So I don't think he was going to come to Chicago for 1.25. I don't think it was going to happen, and it would have been like if they would have tendered him, it would have been like $3 million. So I don't think it's going to hurt Chicago. I think they can get somebody. Hopefully, you'd think they can get somebody better. We'll see. But at the same time, you did open up kind of a hole on the roster. That's something you needed to fill. You kind of need to backfill Sanborn's position. But like you said, Dennis Allen is a little bit different than what they were running last year, albeit similar. So I like Jack Sanborn just as a guy, I like seeing him.
He's from Chicago native
from the
too.
area. Yeah. You love that story, but for me, it's like I'm not gonna lose sleep or on Sundays or whatever it is, like Jack Sanborn not being there. But it was like a comfort thing.
Oh, for sure.
Seeing Sanborn on the sidelines, and he did make plays. I mean, last year,
he definitely made plays.
He gives maximum effort every single snap. 100%. Love that.
He'd always make
dog, man. He just works.
He was
works so damn hard.
He was efficient with his snaps. Like I think he deserves a starting role. We'll see what they run over there.
I want to see what he does in Dallas.
100%. But it's not end breaking.
Mm-hmm. I don't think the Bears wouldn't have got him for 1.25. They just couldn't. I don't think that would have worked out.
Not with all the moves they made. The money is draining, which I agree with all the moves they made, but that money is disappearing left and right, as it should be. So by the time they spend,
it's a good problem. It's a good problem. It's nice that we are. This is something where like, oh, should we be concerned? Like, I like to be concerned about these type of issues where it's like it's a little minuscule or it's not too big of an impact. Whatever. You'd like to see that. So let's get to some voicemails and shout outs.
Okay, so we do have one voicemail in here from Tito.
Absolutely, Tito. Thank you again.
Yes, OG Hall of Fame Grizzly member. Let me get it real quick, and we'll play it and see what Tito has to say.
My dudes, what's up, man? It's Tito, Dave, Ficky, Erroneous Jack. Looking forward to the next Zoom meeting, boys. Dave, Jack, try and wake up for this one. You know what I'm saying? Nah, but offseason looking good, boys. Looking real good. Like what the Bears are doing, just like, what we talked about, Ficky. Just got to be, a little optimistic, just take a step back and see how hopefully all of it converts to wins, But as for the draft, I don't know, boys. I don't know what we're going to do. I mean, I know we picked up linemen in free agency, but I think we need some depth. But should we draft for depth? I don't think so. Genty, yeah, he'd be great. Tyler Warren, great. But I don't know. It's going to be tough. But hopefully the Bears make the right decision. But we'll see. But love y'all. Talk to you soon. Bear down, baby. FGB. Woo!
Love it. Thank you, Tito. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I do need it. I haven't missed as much as Jack, but I did miss the last one. That's
you did. It's fine. It's okay.
They
are pretty early. Marvel rival.
Yeah. That was tough, man. That was tough. But thank you, Tito. We appreciate you, man.
Well, there's another one coming up here soon. We'll drop it in the Patreon. We love that accountability. We have more accountability than the Bears team had last year, so that's a fact. Come to the BFR for the accountability. We do though. Shout out to the Patreon group. I will be dropping the schedule again here soon. We do have more calls coming up, so you can still join if you want to hop in. The next one, they are fun. We love that they're growing. We talk about all different types of stuff. It's always a good time. I think one of them, we were just talking WWE the whole time, so that was kind of fun. So, but definitely a good time. So make sure to join on the Patreon, thebfrden.com. And if not, just make sure you like and subscribe. That helps a lot as well. So let's get to our shout outs real quick. Make sure to get them in. I'm about to be firing them off if you haven't gotten in your hashtags in here. Let me go ahead and get them going for our new face gang and our OGs. We got Dakota Ferguson in here with a OG baby. Appreciate that, Dakota. We got Hall of Fame Grizzly member Phil in here. Said hashtag OG. Did the Steelers hire Matt Murdock because they must be blind wanting Wash to Rodgers? That's a great Daredevil joke there. But yeah, I think he might go to the Steelers. If he goes to the Vikings though, that would be crazy because then he'd repeat the cycle of Brett Favre minus being a piece of shit.
He's not going to Minnesota.
God,
no way. I think they even said that. I think they were saying with JJ.
Isn't
that weird though? Justin and Aaron flipping though. Justin Fields going to. That's wild.
The Jets. It'll be interesting. Yeah. I'm kind of my girlfriend's family. They're all Jets fans, so I always dog them because they're the only team that's worse than us. I'm kind of excited to see how that works out. So that'll be fun. I'll kind of be watching. That'll be my second team to watch this year. Okay, Giovanni Garcia hashtag OG on YouTube. Appreciate it, Gio. We got Caleb in here. Love the first name. Hashtag OG in here. Appreciate that, Caleb. Well, we got a question. I'll get to that later. We got Jeremy in here with a hashtag OG. Hashtag bear the fuck down. Hashtag fuck Green Bay. Appreciate that. Kyler in here with the hashtag OG. So excited for the draft. Hashtag fuck the cheeseheads. Love that one. Yes, we are excited for the draft too. It is awesome. We're going to have an awesome draft show. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. Okay. And then we got Michael in here, who's also a Hall of Fame Grizzly member with the hashtag OG, hashtag lit merch, hashtag join Patreon. Appreciate it. And if you want to see what the new merch drop looks like, you can get a sneak peek because Michael did share it, I believe, on his Twitter. So find Michael's Twitter, and that shit looked I haven't even seen it in hands yet, and it looked fire from the images. So thank you, Michael, for being the first person to actually get that gear. So appreciate that. Let me see if there's any more that came in here last second. I do got to throw this in here because I do love seeing that. That's fantastic. Okay, we do have 2 questions here, though, Dave.
Okay.
First one here from Lonnie Willier. Hey, Lonnie, I think it's the first time member. I've not seen you in the chat before, but if so, let us know. We'll give you a shout out. So Lonnie here said, do the Bears need to utilize Komet more from Spruce Grove, Alberta, Canada? Shout out Canada. We love that. We got people all over the place. Michael, that
Vancouver.
That's awesome.
I don't know. I don't think that's close, but
no, that's dope though. Appreciate the love from all over the world. We're talking about it's the number one BFR is the number one show for the fans by the fans worldwide. Michael is in the UK. We got Canada in here. We got people all across the globe. So much love. Thank you, Lonnie. To answer your question, yeah, they didn't target him at all. There was games he got 0 targets. Like there's post games. Yeah, there's post games. We'd come in here and be like, dog, like this team is not winning. At least throw it to your tight end that you just signed a new deal to.
Yeah, that's the coaching though. Ben Johnson is gonna. That's one thing we'll see with Komet. He will be used, whether it's blocking or, of course, in the passing game. So,
yeah, he's definitely gonna get used way more. Well, you can't get used less. So, great question though, Lonnie. Appreciate it, and thank you for being new to the show. If this is your first time,
there
we go. And then we got Philip here, our OG in here, said, question for the end. Do you think Genty is more Maurice Jones-Drew or LaDainian Thompson? I'm going to go Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah.
They're both shorter like a bowling ball. They're hard.
If he's LT, man, we better get him. That'll be sick.
Yeah, if he's
Not
LT.
that Jones-Drew wasn't, which I love watching MGJ, but he's in Jacksonville, right? Where he was just, so like.
Well, they're both like short and stocky. Yeah, they're like 5'8".
But Jones just looked even smaller, man. He just. I don't know.
He's a wrecking ball.
I would love
MJD
LT,
was a wrecking ball. So hard to tackle him. I will say, like, he has the same contact balance of like MJD. Like, they literally don't go to the ground.
And I think Genty's quicker. I think he's faster than Maurice Jones Jr.
Probably. He's not faster than LT though. Definitely not faster than LT.
No. LT. If he becomes LT, my God, can we pass on him? It's all right.
Yeah, but there's not many. There's not many LTs. So yeah,
The first one.
Either one of those, that's great. Like the fact that we know those names.
I always feel like it's hard. You don't want to like say guys like LT's he's a Hall of Famer, right? Is he in a Hall of Famer yet or no?
Yeah, he will be if he's not. Maurice probably won't be, but Maurice is a hell of a player. So I mean,
he was so fun to watch back
for sure. I mean, look, player comps kind of suck because you put a ceiling on someone, you put a floor on someone. But you have to.
But I do love a good player comp. I do.
Well, you have to. You have to compare it to something, right? To kind of understand.
What this game's all.
People view him as. So
you get it wrong, you get it wrong.
Yeah, so it's no big deal. I think he's going to be good. So draft good players, right? Whether that's Will Campbell, Mikael Williams, Genty. If you think they're going to be good, they don't even have to be great, but good, solid starters. You take them. That's what the NFL's built on. These great teams are having solid starters across the board. So cool. I think that is awesome. It. Anything else?
No, we'll be back next week. Again, appreciate the support, and draft season's we're almost here. So bear down.
Peace.